My name is James Salt. I work for a company called ClickHome, who provide ClickHome residential construction software management system. A part of that is pre-construction. This video aims to introduce you to pre-construction as someone that has recently purchased it and is about to implement it. It will prepare you to define your core workflow, which you will implement within ClickHome. And it will form the basis of how ClickHome runs. So the workflow describes how you would go from sale through to construction, coordinating all of the different parts of that process, whether that be drafting, estimating, approvals, etc. As a new ClickHome customer, you need to define what that workflow is and be able to define it in a structured manner, which is something new to most of you, and you wouldn't have it already documented. So this video aims to assist you in that process of documenting the workflow so that we can implement it inside ClickHome. It is important to know the benefits that you are attempting to achieve in ClickHome so that we know what we're aiming for in terms of workflow. So we've listed out the three most common benefits that a builder would be looking to achieve using ClickHome pre-construction. So the first one is tracking of job information through a complex process. So it is one of the most complex processes and timely processes that a business would go through, and you have many stages that you need to go through, all with different skill requirements, different time frames, and different documentation requirements and processes. And that is why it's very difficult to track and keep hold of where your jobs are during your pre-construction phase. So the first benefit you get out of ClickHome is knowing where the job is up to and that you've not missed items, which is an obvious benefit, but worth stating because it reflects how you would define your workflow. The second benefit is allowing ClickHome to drive your jobs through this workflow so that you as a manager do not need to manage every element of pushing this job through. You do not need to check that they've done X, Y, or Z. The system is pushing it through and it's ensuring that it's done in an order that is required, i.e. Not publishing something through to the client unless it's been checked. So going through those due processes and ensuring it's done in the correct way. The third benefit is the ability for everyone to get at that information. So often, because it's a complex process, there'll be key individuals that would hold information about where each of these jobs are at, what the status is, and how you're communicating with the client. Obviously, ClickHome pre-construction allows everyone to have that information and it to be readily available and reported on. So with those things in mind, we need to then look at how do we define your workflow and how do we document that. One of the key benefits that I listed out was the ability to drive tasks through the organization for each of your jobs so that it would run a job from start to finish and it would drive tasks to each of your individuals in the office so that you don't have to do that management. Now, this is a very basic introduction, but how ClickHome pre-construction does that is it presents each user that logs on a My Tasks view, which is basically saying what do they need to do on all of the different jobs that you're currently running through pre-construction to continue their progress. So what's available to be done. So each individual in your office, whether they be a scheduler, an estimator, a pre-start or an administrator, would be presented with a list of tasks that are available to be done across all the different jobs. And what that means is by them completing one task in their My Task view on a particular job, that would trigger other tasks on that particular job to appear for other people. Now, this is very introductory and that will make more sense as I demonstrate that through a pre-construction workflow and how those tasks interrelate. But the notion is what you're aiming for is that each individual has the correct My Task list and that tasks appear on their My Task list when the relevant task is completed before it. Okay. So this is an introduction to a very simple workflow, a very simple task. So you can see new job at the top, up there, and a sequence of tasks that happen after it. So, for example, once I've completed a new job, I would then go and do prepare document folder, order site survey and inspection, and also do the task intro and client service. So this diagram gives a notion that I cannot do any of those three tasks until I've done the task new job. So that, say you've got 4 tasks and you've got a relationship between those tasks. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to walk through that workflow as if I was working through the progress of that job. And it's going to demonstrate what would happen to each individual's My Task list. So you can see underneath the task name, new job, there's a brackets there which dictates who would be doing that task or what type of person would be doing that task. So you can see Rob J is assigned to that task, new job, order, site survey and inspection, intro and prepare document. But down here you can see Bill O is assigned to job costing. Now these don't actually have to be people's names, it could be a role code, but I'll introduce the notion of the role code a bit later. Okay. So we start a job, and the first task in your workflow that doesn't have any task before it gets started immediately. Okay, and what I mean, not started, it becomes available immediately. And what we mean by that is that it's available for someone to complete. So we're saying this is available to be done, and it will appear in someone's My Task list. So up here we've got the notion of the workflow. Yellow obviously means it's available to be done, it's in someone's My Task list, and white means it's not available. And down here you've got a graphic showing the different My Tasks for each of the individuals. So by running through this, you'll see how tasks move from one person's My Task list and create tasks for other people. So we'll start off with new job is available to be done for Rob J. Rob J then completes new job, and 3 other tasks become available to be done. Now they are all for Rob J to do. So he finishes one task and receives 3 tasks back. He then completes 2 of those tasks. So he's just got intro and client service. But now order survey received is available for Ken H to do. So it's in his My Task. So you can see by completing a task, and in this case order, site survey and inspection, you follow that line down, and then that means that order survey received is available to be done. Now it's important to know that there's only one line going into order survey received, which means you only need to have order, site survey and inspection completed for that order survey received to be available. You'll notice job costed, however, isn't available for anyone to do because we still haven't completed intro and client service. You can see there's 3 lines going in. So you need intro and client service, you'd also need order, site survey and inspection, and you'd also need prepare document folder completed before job costed became available. And that's a core concept of the workflow, and it's something really worth stressing, that you can have multiple things being required for a single task to be available for someone to do. So we'll move on. So intro and client service has now been done by Rob, and that results in job costed being available below. And we'll continue on. Bill completes job costed, and that means 2 extra tasks are created for Bill and 1 for James, and you proceed on. So this gives a notion of how completing one task can trigger other tasks to appear on other people's My Task list. And this is a central concept of pre-construction, and this is the reason why it reduces the management burden. So you don't have to do that finite management. The system will do it for you. So by completing something, it results in something being passed to someone else. And when designing your workflow, you need to take that into account, because you're asking yourself, what do I need to have done before I can do this task? Now, each task you add to your workflow, you're asking that question, and that dictates how you draw these lines, these precedents, we call them. Okay. Right. So what I demonstrated then was the relationships between tasks and how that dictates what happens on individuals' My Task list. Now, what the next stage is actually defining your workflow. So you as an organization need to look at how you move a job from a sale right through to on-site, and possibly past it if you're talking claim processes, etc. So, central concepts of what a workflow is. You've got a task name. You've got a relationship to other tasks. So site inspections needs to have start pre-site completed before site inspections is available. You've got something called a role code. So what type of person can do this task? So in the previous workflow we were looking at, it had names. So it had Billo, it had Rob J, etc. But in an organization, you would actually have roles. So you would say an admin person does the create file task, but you're not actually defining who that admin person is. You're just saying someone with this skill set or in this role does this type of task. And the system will then look for people that can do that task, that have the role of admin, and then will make those tasks appear on those My Task list. Now this is important because it disassociates your workflow from individuals in your organization, meaning that you can change roles of individuals and they will immediately start receiving different tasks. Or you might get extra people into the administration process and immediately they see the admin tasks in your organizations. So it's important to try and keep it generic in terms of roles. So you're saying start pre-site can be done by a role, and in this case we've called it something meaningless like 1000, but that could be admin or pre-start or drafty or estimator. And those are the types of roles that you'll be looking at. So what we can see here is a task is made up of a name, a role code, and relationship to other tasks. So the workflow you can see here is very simple. It's linear. We go start pre-site, then we do site inspections, then we do drafting, then we do approvals. Very, very simple. And quite a lot of the workflow that you will design will be linear. So you complete one thing, you can do another thing. A classic example being I've sent the building license and then I received building license. Okay. Now, obviously you can't draw all of your processes as just a straight linear line. There are different things that you might do. So the next example, and I've drawn something up here, and this will become very familiar to you when I show you the tool. But we've drawn a process where you've got the task planning review, and it can be done by contract admin, and that's up in that top right hand corner. Planning review, and after that you've got a question. And resultant on that question, you would go different paths. So, do I need a planning application? Do I need developer's approval? Those are kind of questions. And by answering that question, you would go down a different route. You would have different tasks for your admin staff to do. So the example here is that we have a planning review done by a contract administrator. We ask a question, is it an internal drafts person? If we go yes, we assign working drawings to a role code draft. If we go no, we go down here and we do order working drawings and receive working drawings. And by the completion of either that line or the internal draftsman, we would end up at the review working drawings task. So you can see that you can customize the route a job takes based upon answers. So this is what we call a conditional workflow. And you might use that type of conditional workflow many places across your pre-construction workflow diagram. You can see here that depending on the route we take, we bring that route together to have review working drawings, either need working drawings or receive working drawings. Okay, so that's conditional workflow logic. You can also have the notion of multiple branches. So this is where you would have one task, contract accepted by all, done by role code administration. And by completing that task, 5 other tasks would appear for other role codes. So here you can have the notion of 4 different processes all happening at once with different people in your organization. So no longer do you have to pass around a physical file, hand it to someone, they work on it, and then they pass it around. You can actually easily coordinate multiple things happening on the same job at the same time, much reducing the time frame that it takes to get from the beginning of your pre-construction workload to the end, and not within bringing about a massive management headache. So you can see that we go down this first line, you've got 4 tasks, and then it brings it all together. So that's the notion that complete these 3 lines of tasks, and then you proceed all at once together. So if you complete the pre-start sequence of tasks, and you complete the building license, and you're still waiting for the water application received, then you'd sit here waiting for that to receive. Once that's completed, then you'd kick off the rest of the process. So typical examples of that would be incomplete subdivision. So you may have gone a fair way down your pre-construction workflow, but you get to a point and you cannot proceed any further because you've still got an incomplete subdivision. Once you record that they've got land title, you would then release the rest of the pre-construction workflow. And you can use those clever stop statements so that you can get as far as you can, but stop at the critical points where you don't want to move past. So that is a notion of multiple branches. So we've shown conditional workflow, and then that's multiple branches. And here is a combination of all of those. So we've got the notion of an approvals workflow. So we're coming in, we've done drafting, go into a task called decide approvals required. And in here you'd be asking several questions saying, do we need developer approval? Do we need a planning application? Do we need building license application? Based upon those answers, we would decide whether we need these tasks, or these tasks. And based upon that answer, you go through those tasks, you'd send, you'd receive, and then you come into a task approval review. And based upon whether you receive the approval or not, you could then loop round and start that process again. And that loop process is another type of workflow concept. So you've got conditional, you've got multiple branch, and you've got the loop process. So by combining all of those, you can have a very complex workflow, and it can map the most complex of pre-construction workflows if combined together. So we've introduced the notion of these workflow concepts, and now the next stage is to think about what are the tasks in your pre-construction workflow. What are the types of things that you need to track that are happening, and maybe measure how well they're happening, how quickly they're happening. So listed on the screen are a selection of the types of tasks that you would add onto your pre-construction workflow. So a classic example, doing tasks. So actually doing pieces of work. So example, drafting, working drawings. Things that take a period of time and are assigned to individuals within your organization. Sales estimating, etc. Pre-start selection, write-up. Those kind of doing tasks. The next task is send and receive task. So I want to track that I've sent for the building license, and I then want to record when I receive the building license. So I can say how long is it taking, how long has it been outstanding so far. So show me all of the jobs where I've sent building license but I've not received it. So those are things where you would have those as separate tasks. So someone would receive send building license as a task. They would mark yes, I've sent it, and then receive building license would be waiting, ready to be completed as and when you receive the paperwork. Another type of task is meeting type tasks. So you put a task in there for booking of the pre-start selection meeting. So someone would receive that and they would book that meeting with the client. And then whilst they are booking it, they are setting the date for the appointment task. And these appointment task calendar events can be integrated into their calendars of the relevant person that's assigned to that task. The next type of task is checking task. So you might have a drafting working drawings task, but then that might be reviewed by the drafting manager. So you'd have a separate task just afterwards going working drawing review, and that would be assigned to the drafting manager or drafting manager role. And then other tasks are approval. So client review of contract, client acceptance of preliminary design agreement, those kind of things. So a combination of those, and those are the types of tasks that you'd want to put onto your pre-construction workflow. It is always important to note that you do not want to put every single little tiny task that you do to get a job on site. There is the notion of a system will cover 90% of the scenarios, but the other 10% you still need human intellect to do. You cannot get a system to deal with every single circumstance. So although it is a complex workflow engine and you can put complex relationships in it, the more complex you make it, the harder it is to understand by your staff, and the harder it is to understand, the harder it is for them to use it. So please be aware that you put those tasks in that you want to track that are done, and those that are critical to getting on site, and those are the key things. So the next thing I'm going to show you is actually show you the tool where you document the workflow in. And I'll show you how to use the tool. So we've selected Microsoft Visio because it's a very common diagramming tool, and it provides a lot of the tools needed to be able to document a workflow, and also provide it in a format that we can import quickly and efficiently into your ClickHome instance. So I've loaded up Visio. It looks like a Microsoft Office product because it is. You get the ribbon bar up here, and you get the edit items, and down here you get the canvas where you're actually drawing. So you see here I've got a simple workflow diagram showing, and I've got tasks here, etc. And by clicking on it, I highlight it, and you can see I can double click on it and I can change the title. So planning review 2. Right? So I'm changing the title of it. Also, by highlighting it, you'll see over here we have something that it calls shape data. So we will provide you with a sample document which has these kind of tasks on there and boxes, and attached to those boxes is this shape data here. And you'll see that by changing some information here, so changing that to 1666, that changes what's displayed. So you can see up here that order number has been changed. So I'll change that back. You also see the role code, so what type of role would be doing this task. So you can adjust the role code, and again that would change what's shown on your task. Now, how you will document it is you will take our sample and copy one of these boxes. So if I right click on it and click copy, click somewhere else, right click, and then click paste, it creates a copy of that task. And you'll see coming with that that task is all of the shape data. Okay. Now in the intro pack it also explains some of the other shape data and what it means. I won't go into it here, but please read the intro pack and it'll give some detail to that. But the key things that you need to be aware of are how to copy that task and the fact that shape data goes with it. Okay, so I'm going to do a very simple workflow where I do create file. So I've just received the pre-construction job from the salespeople. So I'm going to create file, and that's going to be done by my admin team. So the role admin, and it's the first task in my workflow. So I give each task an in order, and that dictates how the task will be shown in a grid view. So I'm going to give this the lowest order, 100. And it's not assigned to anyone, and it's in a stage. But as I said, have a look at the intro pack for the detail on what each of those things mean. So create file. I then get another one, another task. So I clicked on it, I copied, click off it, and I pasted, and that creates another one. Right. And with each of it, the shape data is coming through it, so you've got all of these titles. So next thing I want to happen is order survey. Okay, and that's done by a different admin team. It's done by the Shires team. Okay, and it's the second task in my workflow, so I'll give it a sequence of 110. Then I've already copied this one, so I then receive the survey. Okay, and that's done by the same people. It's done by Shires, and the sequence is another 10 after. Now I'm leaving a gap of 10 because that will enable you to add tasks in at a later point and not have to renumber everything. You can leave a gap of 100 if you like between each task. Okay. Alright, so I've got 3 tasks, but I need to graphically show the relationship between those tasks. So I click on the connector, and that allows me to draw a connector. So now I can put my pointer on that little box there, a red box, and draw by holding down the mouse button to the other red box, let go, and I've created a line, the relationship. And I do the same again from order survey to the C survey. Okay. And by doing that, I've created the idea, or I've documented the fact that I cannot do order survey until I've done create file. I cannot do receive survey until I've done order survey. And that's as simple as that. So you would go about documenting your workflow by continuing that line. So you might add additional tasks to the side, so the multiple branches, what we talked about earlier. Just by drawing it like that, so I'm just drawing a connector. And that might be accounts receive deposit. And I'll give it an in order, so 130. So there you've got the multiple branch scenario. And you would continue doing that, documenting your different workflows. So you might lump them into stages. So you might do the post-sale workflow, pre-construction workflow, approval workflow, post-contract workflow, and you would document them each individually, but then bring them together in terms of the interrelationships. So now I've shown you how to use Visio to draw up your workflow diagram, and shown you how to edit, copy and paste the tasks, and to annotate those tasks with the role codes and the in orders. It's really a process of going and doing your first draft of your workflow diagram, trying to put down your best notion of what you think happens, and talking to your staff about what they do in practical terms. We would ask you that you go and do that, go and talk to them, talk to us at ClickHome about that process. If you've got any questions, please give us a call, talk to us about it, but really have a go at producing that workflow diagram in this format so that it's nice and easy for us to import in and discuss it with you. So please use the introduction pack. As I said, read the introduction document, which gives a bit more detail on the kind of technique of the Visio and what those data items over here mean and how they'll be used by ClickHome. Do your first draft and then please send it through to us, and then we'll talk it through, and over time obviously get more detail. One final note, and I suppose this is a theoretical note, is when you're drawing your workflow diagram, there's an important notion to be made between what you currently do and what you would like to do. And we at ClickHome would recommend that you document what you currently do. Whilst you're doing that, by all means, identify areas that you would like to change. But bringing in a change of workflow by putting in a completely new workflow that doesn't relate to how people currently work and putting in a system is normally too much change at once. What we recommend is that you put in how it currently works, and yes, you might change small bits, but not fundamentally change the workflow. And then over time, you're using the flexibility of ClickHome to adjust that workflow to how you want it to work over time. And that's part of the benefits of using ClickHome, that flexibility to adjust piece by piece, so that you reduce the impact on your staff and ensure that they take up the system and push it forward. As I said, if you have any questions following this video, if we've not explained anything well, please give us a call at ClickHome, and we'll discuss it through with you, answer any questions that you have. But hopefully this has been useful and given you some information about how to document your workflow and what type of items you'd include in your workflow. Thank you very much for listening. No doubt I'll speak soon.